everybody, Michelle here from Gardening TLC, and today is another work day in the garden. We are actually going to work on this bed right here, which is at the end of my driveway. This bed is a nice bed, it really is, but it's kind of green. I think it needs some help. So we're going to add some color to this bed, and I'm going to bring you along with me as I do it. The other thing that we're going to do today is I started a new garden project on the other side of the driveway, and I'm going to take you through the beginning steps of what I've done over there. I filmed it a couple days ago before all the weather came in, but I'll show you what it looks like today, so stay tuned for that as well. So, you ready to get your hands in the dirt? Let's go. Here it is. This is what we got done on Monday. I had one of my guys, Nick, come over and help me. Thank God, he did all the heavy lifting. But here's some footage of us putting this all together. We'll take a look at that, and then I'll show you kind of what my thought process is on this whole area. So take a look. All right, let me just kind of walk you through this. So we do have two little peach trees here. There's one here and one there. They're going into year 3. They were very, very small when I first started them. I did get flowers on them this year, so maybe we'll get a few pieces of fruit, but I'm not really worried about getting fruit yet. I really want them to put on a little bit more size. Now, these are contender peaches, and they are self-pollinating, so they don't need to have another different kind of peach tree so that they will pollinate. Now, as you can see here, we've got our tunnel going on. We did these with 16 by 4 foot cattle panels. I love this. I just think this is so awesome. Now, we did use 6-foot T-posts, and we pounded them quite a ways into the ground. And then we used black zip ties to secure everything, which you can still see all the tails on all the zip ties. And I'll get those all, cut off of there as soon as I'm done. But the one thing we are going to do first is I am going to take a string trimmer, and I'm going to go through this middle section right here, and I'm going to cut down the weeds and the dandelions. That's not grass, that's weeds and dandelions. I'm going to take that down as far as I can, and then I'm going to lay fabric, and I'm going to lay rock through here. This will be like a passageway, okay? Now on the outside, these are the landscape timbers that I found up in the shed when we cleared the shed out. And as orders have been coming in, I've been saving all the cardboard So we did kind of like a double layer of cardboard on top of here, and it's been rained on for 2 days, which is a good thing. Now, the one thing I do want to do is get some more of these landscape timbers, and I want to double it up and make it higher. So what I'm going to do is drill holes through the landscape timbers, and then I'll take rebar and pin them into the ground, and I'm going to do it a double stack high, just so I have a little bit more height here to work with. Now, on one side, we'll be planting everything along the edge here that's going to grow up through the tunnel. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is I purposely placed this tunnel so that it was facing east to west. The sun does rise over there, and it travels over the top of this, so I'm going to have the least amount of shade possible by doing it this way. So I'll be planting things along the edge to grow up the tunnel. That's going to be awesome. Now, the other thing I did was I am going to be planting some climbing roses on the entrance right here of the hoop house, so that we've got something really beautiful that leads us into everything else. On the outside edge of here, this is going to be herbs. It's going to be lavender, calendula, all those herbs, chamomile, things like that that we want to use in our herb garden. So we'll be planting like hedges of those along both edges of the bed, because there's plenty of room. I think these are almost 4 feet wide. So we've got plenty of room to do things here. So here's a nice backed up look of that. I think this is great. Now, eventually, we want the tunnel to lead to something, right? Now, that might be phase 2. That might be next year. So next year, it might be that, you walk through the tunnel, and my thought process is to make a knot garden with herbs and stuff this way. Now, I did buy 12 privets so that I can create a privet hedge that comes along here, so that it kind of creates a screen, so that we don't have to look at the neighbor's property. We look at what we want to create. So that will probably be next year, but I'm pretty excited about that. So the tunnel will lead to something. Won't they be cool? I'm excited about that. All right. Then we come over here, and these corner panels that I found, they were up in the she shed too. And I thought, aren't those great? Now, I don't know that I'm going to put them right up next to the beds like this. I thought I'd put them up like that and see if I liked it. I actually think I'm going to pull them out and do them as corner planters to anchor the whole area. And that way, if I feel like I need to add some fencing, like maybe I need to go buy some deer fencing or some little hardware cloth or whatever to ring this so that I don't have animals up in it, then I've got these as corner anchors. But I thought, I could grow sweet peas on those, or I could grow, regular peas, or I could grow cucumbers, but I can use those as things to grow up. So they're not anchored or anything. They're just kind of in place. But I do love these beds, and so I've spaced them so that in the middle I can dig this area out right here, and I can put a little paver patio platform there, so that I can put a little bistro table there, and then maybe get I don't know, I'm thinking that maybe I'll space them a little bit more or not. I'm kind of living with that space for a minute, but I even thought about putting a little pergola out here over the top of that, so that you have a place to come out here, because this is in the middle of nothing and it's going to get hot, and I know that. And I always have to ask myself, if I create a seating area, am I creating it so that it's practical and that I will use it? So they might get spaced a little bit further apart, but I love these metal beds. They're the same ones that we used last year when we created the employee area in the parking lot. These are those 3x6 beds. I did put a link down below if you want to go check those out. I just really like these beds. They hold up really well, and they're high enough that I can garden and not be on the ground, which is something that I really love. Now, the one thing that I am going to do is I haven't filled them up yet. You can see that right here, it's just the weeds. But what I will be doing is I bought a really nice roll of landscape fabric. I'll be pulling all of these up, and I'm going to lay fabric in all of this here. And then I'm going to reset everything, and then I'm going to put rock in between as the pathways around each of the beds. So I will take you through with me as we continue to work on this area and fill it up. I don't know if I'll get a lot of gardening done in it this year, or if I'm just going to really get all of the infrastructure set up and get it ready for maybe a fall planting, and then for next year. I'm still gardening in the raised beds next door, because I'm still going to have, veggies that I want to eat. And I still have my herb garden back behind the house, but I'm getting ready to kind of create this whole area out here that I want to be in. See the 2 trees that we have right here? Well, these are Chinese lilac trees. We planted them at the end of the cutout of the driveway because, eventually what I want to do is create some landscaping here, and then there'll be a path that kind of curves down and around and takes me all the way over to where we are planting. And then along the edge of that path, that's where I want to do like this perennial pollinator, butterfly, hummingbird, whatever, like trail, and then you kind of go through it. So that's kind of my long-term plan. Now, I don't know if I'll get that far this year. It might be next year. I don't know. You never know. We'll see how far we get. But those are kind of my thoughts. And, you know, they're thoughts. They could change. So don't hold me to any of this. I might change my mind as I move along through this and figure out how I want this to all look. Now, the whole reason we're doing this is, one, I wanted to start gardening on my own property. But two, this is a big field. And I really wanted to kind of shrink my property a little bit by creating these areas that would enclose my property a little bit more to create that sense of intimacy, and it wasn't so open. Now, I'll leave open spaces over there, but in front of those open spaces, I kind of want to close it in. I got a busy road right here. Yeah, see? It's a pretty busy road. I don't like looking at all the cars on that busy road, and I don't like that all the cars on the busy road can see me. So, the good news is they just milled it and repaved it, so it looks great, but I don't like all the traffic. So that's kind of the goal of what we're thinking about doing over the next couple years, is creating these areas to bring more intimacy into the property. Because for the last 6 years, I've really focused on around the buildings. We buttoned up a lot of them last year. There's a few more things we're gonna button up this year, and we'll always be adding and continuing to garden in different areas. But I'm very excited about moving this way. So hopefully you'll come with me on that journey. All right, let's focus now. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, that bed right there. We like this bed and hate this bed. It's kind of a love-hate relationship. Let's talk about what we're gonna do to make it more of a love relationship. This is a sugar maple. It is a big sugar maple, and it dropped millions and millions and millions and millions of helicopters in this bed, of which now we have to clean up. Now, one of the things that I have found with helicopters is, one, I do not mulch before the helicopters come down because I lose half the mulch. Two, I do not rake them. I feel like every time I rake the helicopters, I sow them into the ground, and then I just get more little maple trees that I know what to do with, and I spend my summer weeding them. Every time I just take a blower to it and I blow them out, I seem to have better success. And they are pretty heavy here along the edge. And the other thing is, the winds were so bad this year. They're not just here. They are everywhere. They actually went as far as the garden center next door, and we had to clean them up over there. So what I'm going to be doing is taking my blower. I'm going to blow out as many as I can to the end of the driveway down here, and then I'm going to shovel them up. Now, the one thing that I want to do in this garden bed is, I like the things that are in this bed. I just want more color in this bed besides green. So last year I contemplated taking out these daylilies. Now, the one thing about the daylilies is they do look good, and if I cut them down after they're done blooming in July, they'll come back and they'll look good the rest of the year. So they give me kind of some nice green foliage in there. I seriously thought about taking them out because the only time they're really blooming and looking good is July. But I think I can add other things to the bed and leave these in here and still keep what I've got and just add that color. And no more green. We're going to add things that have beautiful dark foliage, red foliage, or blue foliage. Now, the one thing about this bed is it is an east-facing bed. And guess what? Yup, there it is. There's the big maple tree. That means this is shaded by the time you get to noon. The shade starts up there and it works its way down here. And by the time you reach about, I'd say 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the whole bed is in shade. Now, here is a nice pretty Jane magnolia. It's already done blooming, but I love the shape and the structure of it. We're keeping that. We also have a nice patch of sedum down here. These bloom in the fall. There's 2 different colors in there, and I like those, so I'm leaving them. We also have some alliums in here. I like those. I'm actually thinking I'm going to add maybe 2 more, so there's 5. We also have some liatris in here. So the liatris, this is the cobalt, and as you can see, we have one right here that kind of gets grown up and gobbled up by this woodilla. So we're just going to pop that up and we're going to move it to a different location so that it gets a little more exposure to sun and room to grow. We have a patch of daffodils here that the foliage is dying back. And then again, we have some more sedum here. And then we have our daylilies, some black-eyed Susans through here. And then if we come up this way, you can see that the rest of the bed is kind of filled with hostas. So we have this one hosta right here, and he never does well. He burns up. He's not very big. We're actually going to pop him out of the ground and move him, and we have something else that we're going to put in this area. We also have some tattered leaves already. It's so early in the season. That is wind damage. We really have had a windy spring, but hopefully I can just prune those out and they'll still look good. Here's a beautiful Francis William. This is the biggest it's gotten so far since I put it in. So we're in year 4, and it took it about that long to get this big. We've also got some of the proven winter hostas down here. These always look good. They're so bright and cheery. We're adding 3 more of these to the bed, and we're gonna put them right in here with the rest of them. I tried heucheras. Yeah, they just don't do well competing underneath this maple tree. I think they just don't get the things they need. This is the only one that survived, and every year it's smaller and smaller and smaller. So we're gonna leave it there and see how it does, but I don't anticipate it being there much longer. Then we have a beautiful coast to coast hosta here. We've also got some more tulip and daffodil foliage dying back. Now if we come down the middle of the bed here, this is where we have our fruit punch hydrangeas. And even though these guys don't get full sun 8+ hours, they probably get 6. Maybe that one gets 8. They actually bloom and do really well here. They're never going to get as big as they're supposed to, and that's okay. These I'm using kind of as that middle hedge. And then on the outside edge, we have our sprinter boxwoods, which I'm not completely in love with the shape of these or how they look. I just like winter gems better. I don't think I'm going to dig them up, though. I think I'm going to leave them, and we'll see for another year if I like them or not. And if I end up not liking them and we move on with the project that's going to happen this way, where we, landscape here, yeah, and we do the boxwood hedge, then maybe I'll replace them. So overall, it's a pretty bed. And when the things are blooming that bloom, it looks really good. But when I look at it right now, and I look at it the majority of the time, it's very green. So let's add some color. So when you're looking at color in a bed, I really think it's important to have 4 different colors to tie the whole bed together. You're looking for green, yellow, blue, and red. And red can come in the form of purple as well. Now, when I look at this bed, I have yellow and I have green. But there is not a lick of purple or a lick of blue in this bed, so that's what we're going to be adding. But before we can do that, let's clean up the helicopters. Dent into the helicopters. I didn't get every one of them. There's no way I'm getting every one of those helicopters, but I do feel like blowing them instead of raking them, for me, it works better. So we're gonna move on to weeds next. Most of the weeds in the bed are pretty small, pretty shallow rooted. Gonna use my hula hoe. This is a great tool to scrape out the weeds when they're little because they don't have established root systems yet. Now, if I run into deep weeds, I'm going to use my radius tooler. It's got a serrated edge, it gets down underneath, and it gets a lot of the taproot out. So we're going to do this next, and then when we're done with that, we've got 2 plants to dig up. We're going to move them, and then we'll plant our new pretties. ready to start adding different things to the bed to give it all that beautiful color that I'm looking for. Now, I'm not going to be able to get rid of all the green that's in here. I'm not redoing this whole bed. One, it's a lot of money in there, and two, there's a lot of love, sweat, and tears in this bed. So I'm going to add to the bed, and I'm going to use a combination of perennials, shrubs, and annuals to create the color palette that I'm going for. So we're going to add some red and we're going to add some blue, but we're also going to add some annual flowers with colorful foliage and colorful flowers to create some of the color that I'm going for. I'm a little freaked out over how many helicopters there are. I'm looking down my sidewalk bed just going, oh my gosh, when you get that many helicopters or that many weeds or that many whatever that you have to take care of, one of the things that I highly recommend you do is, one, don't look at all of it at the same time, and two, chunk it down into separate days and work on one section at a time. It becomes a little less overwhelming. It's kind of like that eat an elephant one bite at a time. So even though I'm looking in that direction so that you have this as your backdrop, yeah, I'm looking at all those helicopters just like, oh my gosh, there's so many of them. But I'm not going to think about those. All right, we're ready to plant. We are now going to introduce the colors into the bed, and we are going to use a combination of shrubs, perennials, and annuals to do that. So first on my list is a blue, which is already in the bed, but I love this plant so much I decided that I wanted more of them. It is a hosta. Now, out of all the hostas that I grew last year, this one didn't get eaten by slugs. It wasn't affected by all the heavy rain. It made it through the drought. It was one of the hostas that by the end of the season, it was still like, look at me, I'm gorgeous. And this is it right here. I love this hosta. This is the Shadowland Autumn Frost by Proven Winners. Isn't this beautiful? So when you first put it in the ground and or when it first comes up in the spring, these leaves are going to have a really pretty blue hue to them with this wide margin that's yellow. Now, as it ages into summer, this will turn a little bit more green and not so much blue, but it's one way to add a blue element. And look at this thing, it is gorgeous. And I think I showed you the ones that were in the bed when we first started the video. So this is the Autumn Frost. It's going to grow in part shade to full shade. That's anywhere from 6 hours down to 2 hours. Now 6 hours, that's pushing it a little bit. I would say that definitely needs to be morning sun. Hostas don't like hot afternoon sun. Now these guys are going to grow 12 to 16 inches high, and you're going to space them 24 inches apart. So it's not a really big hosta, but it's a beautiful hosta and it has a lot of color in the garden. This guy grows in zone 3 through 9, so good cold hardiness. All right, we are going to add 3 of these to the bed, and we're going to add them in the area where the hostas already are. I just want more, and I'll show you where I'm putting everything in just a second. All right, let's move on to the second thing that we're going to add to the bed. I am going to use annuals to also create some of the color contrast that I'm looking for. Because this is a part shade, part sun, front gets more sun, back gets more shade. You know, it's kind of hard to find things that are going to grow in those conditions and carry it throughout the whole entire bed. But one plant does that, and it does it well, and that is a surefire begonia. I'm going to use the cherry cordial. It has this really dark foliage on it and this pretty pink flower with the yellow center. This is really dramatic. I love this, and it's going to break up all the green in the bed. So I'm going to use this around the edges of the bed. I've got some that I'm going to put up here at the top of the driveway and some down towards the bottom of the driveway. Now the ones at the bottom of the driveway might get a little bigger because they are getting more sun, but these will grow in sun or shade. Now this is the cherry cordial, and it's going to grow 12 to 24 inches high, and you're going to space them minimum 12 inches, maximum 18 inches. Not only do I love the color of the foliage that I'm going to get on this to help me break up the green, this will grow in sun or shade. It's drought tolerant, doesn't have to be fertilized, bugs leave it alone. There's so many positives about this plant that, I don't know, I'm planting them up here and I'm planting them in the back, so I'm really, really loving these. But I love the dark foliage of this leaf, and that's totally going to help me break up all the green. So wait till you see where we're going to put these. They're going to be spectacular. This next plant that we're going to put in the garden is not for everybody, and in fact there are places where this is not allowed to be grown. We can still grow it here in Illinois, and we are going to add it to the garden to give us some beautiful red foliage. The one thing, if I had to say, that I don't like about this plant is it has thorns. Now I'm not going to be pruning mine I'm gonna let it grow to whatever shape it grows. If maybe it gets a wonky branch that comes out, I might give that a little clip, but I'm going to be planting a barberry right here. And I am going to plant the Nana. So this is a Berberis thunbergii, and again, I'm gonna plant the little Nana. This guy is gonna grow 18 to 24 inches high, so it's not a very big shrub, 24 to 36 inches across. So it gets a little bit wider than it does tall, grows in zone 4 through 8, and it says that it needs 8+ hours of sun a day. Now, I've grown this in 6 hours of sun, and what happens is it starts to lose that pretty red color. One of them is gonna be a little bit further back in the bed, and I'm hoping that it doesn't lose its color, that it's gonna get enough sun. The other two are more towards the front of the bed, and I know they're gonna get 8 hours of sun, so they'll be fine. So we're gonna put these in to create some nice drama, some nice red foliage. It's gonna be absolutely gorgeous. I'm really sorry for those of you that can't grow this, but I'm putting this in my bed. I think it's gonna be beautiful. One more shrub that we're gonna add to the bed, and this is gonna add our beautiful blue. Again, this is a full sun plant, so we're gonna be planting them more towards that end of the driveway. And this one I hope is gonna serve two purposes for me. One, I lose a lot of my mulch on the edge of the driveway whenever it rains. So I'm hoping that by adding these more towards the edge of the driveway where they can kind of grow out, it will stop some of that mulch from rolling out onto the driveway. We are going to be planting a blue chip juniper. Look at this guy. Isn't it gorgeous? Oh, I think this is beautiful. And it is the most beautiful blue. Look at that. Isn't that great? I thought about doing blue stars, which are kind of small, moundy little junipers. And then I decided, nah, I want something with a little more impact. So we're putting this in the ground. Now this juniper grows in zone 3 through 9. Again, great cold hardiness. They're gonna grow only 10 to 12 inches above the ground. So this is a ground hugging juniper, but it only will grow, it'll grow 8 to 9 feet wide. Now, if it starts creeping out on the driveway further than I want it to, I can always just nip that off. That's no big deal. But I am gonna plant it about 3 feet in. And junipers are great for erosion control, so I'm really hoping that it's gonna stop mulch from washing out. We're only putting 3 of them in. I did dig up some black-eyed Susans that basically Glenn runs them over every year to make room for the juniper. And we left one clump and we took one clump out because it'll take it a little bit of time to, to grow. And so as it grows, I'll dig the other black-eyed Susans out and move them as this gets bigger. But until that happens, we're gonna leave those there because it's great color. And hopefully with this there, Glenn won't run them over. We'll see. That is everything that we're gonna put in the garden, except for 3 low Sedona bowls that I planted up with some calibrachoas to add some extra color, and I'll show you where I put those. Right now, I've already placed everything. I just have to put this right here, this juniper back where it goes, and then I'll walk you around and show you where everything is gonna go. I'm gonna fertilize everything today with the Biotone starter fertilizer, whether it's an annual, a perennial, a bowl, a shrub. I'm just gonna use this on everything. The other thing I'm gonna do is I am gonna go around and I am gonna put pre-emergent down. I'm gonna use this product right here. It's called Snapshot. Pre-emergent is a product that I like to use, and it's your choice to use it or not, but I use it because it stops new weed seed from germinating. Now, I know I'm going to get a whole bunch of questions. Will it stop those helicopters? No, unfortunately, it won't stop those from germinating. Now, remember, if you're going to use a pre-emergent, you can't use it if you're going to plant seed in your bed or if you're planting bulbs. You don't want to put it around your bulbs. So my bulbs are already done for the season. I'm going to get this all laid out and show you where we're going to put everything, and then I'll get it planted. I'll get my pre-emergent down. I'll fertilize everything, and then we're gonna remulch the bed. I'm waiting to get through all the beds and get the helicopters cleaned up, and then I'm just gonna mulch it all at the same time. At least that's the plan. Might not work out that way. I might end up doing sections at a time. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. I planted up this little bowl that I'm gonna have right here, and see, these are the hostas that we dug up the other day. I'm gonna add those right down there at the end. That's just one of the 5 buckets. Now, in this little planter right here, I ended up planting a proven winner color blaze coleus right here. This one is called Wicked Witch. It's gonna grow 24 to 40 inches high. It is, everything in this pot is an annual for me, and they're gonna grow anywhere from 18 to 24 inches across. But I just love the lime green on that. So I matched it up with the lime green on this one. Now, this is not a proven winter coleus. This one is called Stain Glassworks Burgundy Wedding Train. Now, the Burgundy Wedding Train will grow 12 to 16 inches high, and it drapes. And so it can drape like up to 24 inches. So I've grown these before in pots, and they just fill and they drape and they're gorgeous. And then I added the cherry cordial, which we have everywhere else. So this whole bowl will fill up, but I already planted the bowls up. But aren't those great? I just love the bowl. And then we are going to add our autumn frost hostas in here as well. So you can see we got 3 absolutely gorgeous ones right now. Little bit of wind damage on those. We did have some really serious wind, but I love that we're going to add the 3 to this bed along with the cherry cordial. Isn't that going to look great? And then if you look back behind our Gold Coast hosta and our lemony lace elderberry, this is our placement of our first barberry. Now this is the one that's going to get the least amount of sun, but I'm hoping that it'll be okay here. I have a big hole there, and I just feel like I needed that red to kind of break up the area. So we did tuck that one in there. All right, now as we come along the edge of the driveway, you can see that we are adding, oh look, there's a little Sedona bowl. And in this one, we added a little Calibrachoa from Proven Winners. And this one is called Holy Smokes. As you can see, there is still a patch of black-eyed Susans next to it. And again, as this thing grows and fills out this area right here, I'll take those black-eyed Susans out. All right, coming down here, we did put some more of the Surefire begonias in the front of the border. And then as you can see, we have another bowl of our Calibrachoas, and this is where we added another barberry, and then we have 2 of the junipers. We have one here and one back there. And if I back out, you can see how now you've got some really pretty color in here looking at the bed, because everything's going to grow up and fill in, and it's not just green, and I love that. All right, let's get busy and get some planting done. Done. I'm so excited that this one is done and I don't have to worry about it. Yes, I still have to mulch it, but I'm not worried about that. That's a little bitty baby thing to do. Now, we got the front bed done last week. I did go through and get the annuals planted on the other side. And then, of course, the helicopters came down, and I have not cleaned the helicopters up over there. And I probably won't film the cleaning of the helicopters, you know, down the sidewalk, because I've already planted the pots, and it's just going to be a helicopter cleanup, which you just saw. And how much fun is that to watch? Well, it's not even that much fun to do. So I certainly won't make you sit through it. So what we're going to do next week is we're going to start working our way around to the new bed that we designed this winter that connects the front bed with the cottage garden. I've gathered almost everything I need to do the install. So I'm pretty excited about that. I don't know if I can do it all in one day, so it might take me a couple videos to get it done. But then we've got a attracting birds to your yard video. That one's going to be really good. So stay tuned for that. We've got the Clem Garden Fair coming up. That's not this weekend, but May 31st and June 1st. So I'll be out at the Clem Arboretum at the garden fair both those days. If you're in Rockford and you want to come to a garden fair, it is a really good garden fair. So you could come and check it out. I'll be there. You can come check out our booth and maybe find something for your garden. All right, so that's all I've got for today. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. Thanks for hanging in there with me. I know I've been a little slow putting videos out. I do what I can do. All right, so thanks, guys. We'll catch you in the next video, and I hope you get your hands in the dirt today, too. Bye, everyone.